Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back through daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about all of crypto. We are going to be talking about major market crashes, including even in crypto, at about 90% due to the bear market coming very, very soon. We are going to be discussing that. We are also going to be talking about why I personally believe that crypto is the perfect hedge against black swan events. So, with that being said, let's just jump into it and let's talk about, first off, let's talk about the overall concern, which is the bear market. So, listen, I am very bullish on crypto. I still think that we have a lot of room to grow this year. I think that, first off, stocks and stuff will continue to go up until they don't. First off, listen, going back to 2013, if you were here during this time, that's great. We have topped around the November-December timeframe multiple times. Now, with Bitcoin during this time, we also crashed. We bottomed out. Same goes for 2017. We topped around 19,000 points, 19.5K roughly, before dropping to around $3,000 almost flat. Again, we've seen the same pattern being printed this year. We have not yet topped. We have still some more growth left in Bitcoin, and a lot of our altcoins also will launch in price. But with Bitcoin at its current price points and with the time basis lining up, expect Bitcoin to top within the next 3 months. Now, with that, we are going to be seeing a massive collapse, a 90% across the board for most altcoins, if not all altcoins. And we, of course, are going to see Bitcoin drop around 70 to 80%. But don't get it twisted. I still think that crypto is the perfect hedge. Well, how do we utilize it as a hedge? Well, first off, we've seen people making massive amounts of money off of crypto. We're talking $2,000 to $50 million plus off of assets like Shiba Inu, even Dogecoin, and many other meme coins. This market has the possibilities to make people extremely rich and extremely wealthy. This also allows you to, position yourself perfectly to essentially hedge against what's coming. Now, how do we do that? Especially when a bear market is coming. Well, first off, you want to reinvest your profits. First off, always take profits along the way. That way you could reinvest it during the bear market, where we do see 70 to 90% drops in price. The best part about this is that we are extremely, I would say we are extremely fortunate to be able to know about this market, to know about these massive utility gems that have the potential to grow at an astronomical rate. We've talked about XRP having the perfect basis as a liquidity crisis problem-solving asset that could actually help us hedge against something like a black swan event. Now, don't take my word for it. Things are happening at a rapid pace right now in the US and around the world. Gas prices rising. We're seeing massive shortages on materials and, of course, food and stuff. Just the other day, me and my girlfriend were trying to go out to eat. Many places were short on certain food items. They actually have a smaller menu now. It's crazy to see things unfolding like this because it all brings a lot of people back to 2008. I personally can't speak for 2008 too much. I wasn't aware of things happening. I was still in school, so overall I can't speak on that. But I do know a lot of the things that we are seeing now are essentially pretty much a masked image of 2008. First off, this backlog of cargo ships at the Southern California ports are reaching an all-time high. This is a very serious problem because these cargo ships are pretty much locked at where they are due to a supply chain crisis. This is a problem. This is a very big problem considering the fact that a lot of these prices in terms of goods and services are going to rise astronomically. A lot of things are on a backlog. Things are I even see it all the time with a lot of electronics right now, like, card chips, computer chips, even computer parts. Things are rising at an astronomical rate, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. Of course, we're seeing, promises being made. Those promises are all, just blowing in thin air because we already know that there's a lot of cargo ship, workers saying that this is not going to let up anytime soon. But this is not the only problem that we are dealing with right now. We even see, a lot of people believing that there is going to be a massive shift in terms of the global economy. I personally do believe this. First off, this is Barry Silbert, the founder and CEO of DCGCO, parent of Grayscale, Genesis Trading, CoinDesk, TradeBlock, Foundry Services, and Luno Global. Investor in 180 CEOs, by the way. Now, the best part about this, okay, is that if a massive market collapse is going to happen, we are going to see that happen alongside of all markets, including crypto. This will most likely happen in terms of after 2022, somewhere around the 2022 basis. After 2021, I meant, sorry, not 2022. This is going to lead us into 2022 itself, and I think that sometime in that year, we are going to see a massive crash. And you might be wondering, well, why? Well, first off, we are seeing massive inflows of major money into the major indices around the world, including in the U.S. This is a problem considering the fact that inflation rates in the U.S. are at astronomical highs. We also see a lot of people, again, just an activist investor, Carl Icahn, says there will be a crisis the way we are going, the way we are printing money, the way inflation is going. And this is the truth, right? A lot of the things that are happening right now is money keeps getting printed while nobody is talking about inflation rates. Of course, we are seeing, some concerns growing, but of course we see people like Jerome Powell say, hey, inflation is transitory, but it's not. It's absolutely the opposite of transitory. We've seen this sort of comparison with inflation, and we even seen mortgage rates growing at an astronomical demand during the 2008 crash. It was right before it that it led to it. So again, I see the same warning signs over and over again. We even see here black swans. We see here that underlines why it's so important to prepare for so-called black swan events, like market crashes that are sudden, awful, unpredictable, and rare. Notice that by this definition, they are unpredictable, so it's a false comfort to believe you can anticipate future black swans in time to reduce your portfolio risk and thereby sidestep a market crash. Did you foresee the COVID-induced bear market in time to avoid big losses? No, of course, we do not know when this is going to happen, but we do know that everything is pretty much saying the same thing. We are seeing a massive black swan event preparing. Okay, right now, with how things are happening throughout the world, I personally predict a major market crash at some point in time. I don't think that it happens this year. I think that we'll probably, get out of this year unscathed, but I still think 2022 is a year to watch for a significant crash alongside of the many markets. Now, of course, that also gives us enough time to cash out our crypto in terms of the bull market and prepare for the 90% crash during the bear market. But I still think that we have a much bigger problem on our hands. In fact, we do see here Apocalypse Now, Britain's race against time to fight off multiple black swan events. We're seeing, not just gas and CO2, but of labor and fuel for supermarkets and factories. Experts call for a risk register review. We are seeing a lot of things happening around the world that are also happening in the U.S. If you live in the U.S., you understand right now, gas prices are surging. I just paid, almost $100 to fill my gas tank just the other day. That is absolutely ridiculous. Just to give you guys an insight, a year ago, I would have probably paid about $38 to around $50. That's absolutely crazy. Now, we do see here locally, we face severe disruptions not just of gas and CO2 supplies, but of labor and fuel needed to operate supermarkets, factories, and farms. We're also seeing, for an example, utility prices, heating and, electricity and stuff going up in price as well. This is a severe issue among the boards. Now, we're even seeing here things may look unsteady. This is pretty much overall. This goes back a while back, just so you guys know, to the 25th of September, just so you guys know. But still, this is all. These things have gotten 10 times worse since this article. In fact, we have seen this article play out perfectly in the U.S. at a much severer level. I was just grocery shopping the other day. The shelves looked exactly the same. They looked extremely empty. Prices on most things, like there's things that I was buying, again, going back about a year ago, that are 2 times the price. And this all leads back to this. Powell says supply side constraints have worsened, creating more inflation risk. And the fact that this is being released, which is just yesterday, just so you guys know, we even see our supply side constraints have gotten worse. The risks are clearly now to longer and more persistent bottlenecks and thus to higher inflation. Now with this, you would have thought, Yeah, that means that the Dow Jones and the Nasdaq and S&P 500 are going down in price. No, in fact, they did the opposite. They actually surged today. We've seen the Dow Jones actually hitting an all-time high just recently, but we also seen this surging as we did see throughout the entire week. This is continuing in terms of its nice price appreciation, but this is also a call for concern, in my opinion, because when we're talking about these indices continuing up like this and during times like this, it means that these are massively inflated assets, in my opinion. Now, again, when we're talking about these, the Dow Jones, S&P 500, and so forth, they all looked good during the 2008 crash until it actually happened as well. So when we're talking about these massive markets being inflated by, printed money, which I think is happening, I think that a lot of the printing that's been going on is to pretty much prop these markets up and make them look fairly good. That's a problem, okay? Now let's see here. Dow books record high even as Powell warns on inflation, which I've said multiple times. And we even see here Intel says chip shortage hurt processor sales. We are seeing computer chip shortages. We're seeing shortages along the lines.
All right, folks.
Sorry, let me pause that. We are seeing shortages across the board for many overall electronics and stuff like that in terms of those high-grade electronics and things that are utilized on a day-to-day basis. This is also allowing used cars and even new cars to increase in price as well. I just seen an article the other day saying that used cars are up like about 5 times the price that they should be. Things are getting astronomically inflated right now. We even see here Jeffrey Goldlock says inflation will stay above 4% through 2022. Billionaire bond investor said inflation likely will stay above 5% in 2021 and exceed 4% through next year. Conceded that some price increases such as lumber and some other commodities are temporary, but said others are not. And I don't think that it is temporary. I think a lot of these markets are going to continue to rise like that. And in fact, I think inflation rates are much higher than 5 to 4%. In fact, I think that they are around the double-digit area. Now, we also see here New York Fed's Williams says rising home prices don't pose financial stability risk. But it is the opposite. Again, when we're talking about a lot of these houses going for, 2-3 times the price that they are supposed to, like I'm seeing people selling, completely destroyed houses like around me for almost $100,000, and they're saying that it's move-in ready, where the interior of the homes have mold and the ceilings are collapsing. This is a very, very big problem right now. We even see here United Airlines CEO says to expect higher fares as jet fuel prices rise, takes swipe at rival strategies. United CEO says he expects to pass higher jet fuel prices on to travelers. The Delta variant of COVID-19 hurt United bottom line in the third quarter. Again, a lot of these major companies are blaming COVID, but it's actually not COVID. The problem is inflation rates are completely at an astronomical high, and they're continuing to rise as we do continue to spend and bring in these massive bills that are trillions of dollars. And where do you think that money comes from? Well, essentially, everything needs to rise in price so that we could accommodate for these massive bills, and we do see tax hikes happening as well. We even see here how high Goldman Sachs predicts home prices will go in 2022. In fact, ever since an article going back to around May, home prices are up another 6%. If you don't see the problem here, first off, let me just show you the chart. This is a very big issue. In fact, during January of 2022 or 2020 itself was the perfect time to buy. No, I honestly will not be buying a house anytime soon. 17.7% home rate growth. That is absolutely massive. Now, what do you think is going to happen with this chart? I honestly want to ask you guys, because when we're talking about this, how high could this actually go before this crashes? Now, again, we do see here they don't see prices correcting anytime soon. In fact, they are forecasting another 6.2% jump in 2023. Again, we've seen the same agenda pushed. We actually seen in 2008 a lot of individuals saying, hey, houses are going to continue to climb. This is a buyer's market. You need to buy now. I remember all the mortgage commercials where they were advertising, go get a mortgage at the lowest rate possible for this and that. And guess what ended up happening? Once they got enough people in, the rug pull happened and the housing market collapsed. Those mortgages were at astronomical rates and people could not afford to, again, pay their house bills. And guess what ended up happening? Those houses went up for not foreclosure. They couldn't pay their bills. So what ended up happening was the fact that they, one, defaulted on their mortgage. And essentially, yeah, I mean, foreclosure did happen. So when we're talking about that, I see exactly the same thing playing out perfectly. And again, if anybody is looking, at buying a house, I would give it some time because I still think that we are in a major bubble. We actually see here the 2008 housing bubble crushed home building. New privately owned housing units started. And again, look at the same graph here. Now they're saying that the COVID-19 was the big problem for the Great Recession in terms of the housing market and so forth. But honestly, I think that this point here is nothing compared to what we are actually going to see. I think that this is just a small hiccup similar to this between 2003 to 2005 time here, right? And I still think that this massive collapse is on its way at some point in time. Sure, again, we can't predict exactly when, but I'm still somewhere around that 2023. If we have to wait a little bit to 2023 to around 2024, 2025 possibly, that's totally fine. I'm just not buying a house anytime soon at all. This is truly a seller's market, not a buyer's market, in my opinion. And of course, we will see, major things like, hey, you need to buy right now because we are expecting massive growth continuing all the way to 2023. We've seen the exact same narrative around this time here. In fact, during this entire time, people were ecstatic about making a ton of money, and look at what ended up happening out of nowhere, a massive crash. And of course, a lot of warning signs were leading up to this point. We've seen it in the past. Everybody who knows, if you are a retail individual, you should already see it, right? You're seeing massive influxes in terms of prices for food, prices for gas, and again, we are going to see those major prices in terms of utilities as well, in terms of, electricity, in terms of heating. If you do use electric for heating, you'll see it increased in the, electricity bill. Even, a lot of things that we depend on, right? We're seeing even increased prices for water. So a lot of things are increasing in prices, and this is due to inflation rates. And when we're seeing inflation rates at their all-time highs, while, things like the indices are continuing to pump, and we're seeing, these prices being inflated, because I personally think that these indices are extremely inflated by printed money, and I think that is why there's so much printed money out there in circulation, which I've already showed you guys graphs in past videos. I don't see how these are even at these prices that they are at with a lot of the news that's happening. But I definitely think that this is the biggest call for concern, and I think that this has been the biggest call for concern because this is a major problem. And this is actually what's actually spiking a lot of those prices throughout a lot of these major markets and the major demands in terms of even food, electronics, and pretty much everywhere. So, definitely be careful. Always, when we're talking about pretty much hedging against these massive black swan events, we all go back to crypto and we're looking at things from an overall viewpoint on what crypto actually could become. And, I think that it easily outperforms, gold long term. It already has been. Bitcoin has been outperforming gold since day one. When we're talking about what's to happen in this market, sure, we will see a bear market at some point in time. That's happening. That's a no-brainer sort of idea. But again, when we're talking about what's happening long-term for crypto, it's going to continue its upward momentum. And I think crypto is overall the major future assets for what the future will hold in terms of fintech, financial payments, all of that kind of stuff. I think when we're talking about even XRP, it could solve a massive problem, which is the liquidity crises, and even in terms of inflation, because this is all deflationary assets at the end of the day. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on. If you guys don't want more free content, you guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, I hope that you all have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are. Just before this, been Nick. Peace out, guys.